All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're looking at something, it's pretty mind-blowing to be honest. We've got this roadmap from IXO, their vision for 2025, and it lays out, let's just say, a pretty ambitious plan to reshape, like fundamentally reshape how we interact with both the digital world and in the physical world around us.
Yeah, no, it's big. Basically, IXO is talking about building what they're calling the spatial web.
Okay, the spatial web. So is this, I don't know, like Ready Player One or something?
Not exactly. Think of it more like taking the internet as we know it, right? All the information, all the connections. But instead of it just being on your screen, it's like it's overlaid onto the real world around you. Like you can see it, interact with it, all while walking down the street or even just sitting in your living room.
Whoa, okay, so this is blending the digital and the physical in a whole new way.
Exactly. And they're bringing together some really powerful technologies to do it. We're talking Web3 with its focus on blockchain and decentralization combined with artificial intelligence and a constant, like a never-ending stream of data that's tied to specific locations.
Okay, so this roadmap isn't just like some theoretical sci-fi concept, right? They're aiming to make this spatial web a reality within the next couple of years.
Yeah, that seems to be the goal. The documents we've got, they detail how IXO plans to deliver practical solutions using this tech, but not just solutions. Intelligent solutions, ones that are actually aware of where they are, their location, and can make a real difference in the physical world, like actually impact our lives.
So our mission today, if you will, is to really dive deep into this roadmap. We want to understand what exactly is IXO's vision for this spatial web and maybe even more importantly, how they plan to get there. What are the core technologies they're using? What are the practical steps they're taking? All that good stuff.
Yeah, and I think a good place to start is with some of the key concepts they introduce, like this idea of tokenized cognitive digital twins.
Okay, tokenized cognitive digital twins, that's a mouthful. What exactly does that even mean?
So imagine you have a digital representation of a real world object or even a system. It could be something like a wind turbine, a section of farmland, or even parts of a city's infrastructure.
Yeah, so a digital copy of a real thing. Got it.
But it's not just a static copy, like a picture. This digital twin is constantly being updated with real-time data from its physical counterpart. And it's not just floating around aimlessly in cyberspace. It's anchored to a precise geographical location. Oh, and get this, it also has artificial intelligence built in, which makes it smart. Like it can respond to changes, make decisions, all that.
Whoa, okay, that's pretty wild. So these digital twins, they're like smart living digital versions of real things, constantly connected and updating.
Exactly. And the roadmap, it highlights examples of how this could be used in all sorts of areas. Like in clean energy, they talk about creating these digital twins for solar panels or wind farms. You could track their energy output, their efficiency, even predict maintenance needs all in real time.
That's amazing. What about other examples? They mentioned healthcare, right?
Yeah, so in healthcare, they talk about creating digital twins for medical devices, even for entire healthcare systems. You can imagine tracking the availability of hospital beds or monitoring the spread of diseases in a much more precise and efficient way.
Okay, so the potential applications here they're huge, but how do we ensure trust in all this? If we're going to have these digital twins representing real world assets and systems and making decisions, we need to make sure they're secure, right? That no one can tamper with them or manipulate the data.
Absolutely. And that's where this gets really interesting. The roadmap puts a big emphasis on trust and security. They talk about using these things called zero knowledge proofs, which I know that sounds super technical.
Yeah, zero knowledge proofs, that's definitely a new one for me. Can you explain that in a way that even I can understand?
Sure. Think of it like this, proving that you know the password to a door, but without actually showing anyone the password itself. That's what zero knowledge proofs allow you to do. You can verify information, say that a sensor reading from a wind turbine is accurate or that a certain condition in a healthcare system has been met, but without revealing any of the underlying sensitive data. It's all about proving something is true without actually having to reveal the secret information that proves it.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So it's like showing your ID to get into a bar, but instead of handing over your actual ID card, you just wave your hand over a scanner and it confirms you're of age without actually seeing your birth date or your address or anything.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And this is super important for privacy, right? Because in this spatial web, there's going to be so much data being generated and shared. We need ways to ensure that people's private information is protected.
Absolutely. So we've got these zero knowledge proofs for privacy and security. What else are they doing to build trust in this spatial web?
Alongside the zero-knowledge stuff, they're also focusing on what they call sovereign data management, which essentially means putting individuals and organizations in control of their own data. You get to decide who has access to your data, how it's used, all of that.
Okay, so more control for users over their own data.
Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. But how does all this, like, how does it all work together? We've got these digital twins, we've got zero knowledge proofs, we've got sovereign data management. How do these pieces fit together to create this functioning spatial web?
That's where the really innovative part comes in. They're
Yeah.
developing these advanced coordination mechanisms that will allow different parties to interact and conduct transactions based on this verified real-time data coming from the digital twins.
It's like creating a whole new set of rules and protocols for how we interact and exchange information in this new spatial web. And these rules are built on trust, security, and transparency, thanks to things like zero knowledge proofs and sovereign data management.
Exactly. And the potential here is truly enormous. Think about it. If you have this reliable, verifiable data about a real-world asset or project, let's say, the progress of a reforestation initiative or the efficiency of a solar farm, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Like, what kind of possibilities are we talking about?
For one, it could lead to truly decentralized marketplaces. Imagine a marketplace where you can directly invest in a reforestation project, track its impact in real time, and see exactly where your money is going. And because all the data is verified and transparent, thanks to those zero-knowledge proofs and sovereign data management, you can be confident that it's all legitimate.
That's amazing. We could have these global marketplaces for all sorts of things, not just reforestation, but clean energy projects, healthcare initiatives, anything really.
And these marketplaces could be truly global, connecting people and projects from all over the world. And the roadmap gives some really cool examples of how this could work in practice. Like they talk about this urban planning example. Imagine being able to track very specific street-level data relevant to public safety using these location-aware modules.
Like knowing where there are high crime areas or where traffic accidents tend to happen.
Exactly. And because of the zero-knowledge techniques, you can do this in a way that respects individual privacy. Like you can track the overall trends and patterns without actually identifying any specific individuals.
So the data becomes incredibly valuable for making informed decisions about things like where to allocate police resources or how to improve traffic flow, but without sacrificing anyone's privacy. That's a powerful combination.
It is. And then on top of all this, we have these AI oracles, which sound like something straight out of Greek mythology.
Yeah, AI oracles, I've got to admit, that's a pretty cool name, but what exactly are they?
Think of them as the intelligent layer on top of all this data. They're like smart interpreters and predictors. They can take all that location-based data, information about geographical conditions, environmental factors, even patterns of human activity, and combine it with advanced analytics to make sense of it all.
So they're like super-powered data analysts, but powered by artificial intelligence.
Exactly. And this allows for much more efficient allocation of resources, better decision-making, all sorts of things. The roadmap it gives some really compelling examples, like being able to predict potential disease outbreaks based on real-time location data, and then quickly directing medical supplies and personnel to the areas that need them most, or even optimizing the distribution of clean cooking technologies to communities where they can have the biggest impact.
Wow. So these AI oracles, they're not just crunching numbers, they're actually helping us make smarter decisions that can have a real positive impact on the world.
Exactly. And this is just scratching the surface. The potential applications of these AI oracles are truly vast.
But how does all this translate into tangible action and real world change? How do we actually make this stuff happen?
That's a great question. And that's where the roadmap dives into what they call token economic reforms, which is essentially about how they plan to use the power of blockchain technology and token economics to incentivize real-world change.
Okay, so they're talking about using cryptocurrency and blockchain to drive real-world impact.
Exactly. And a key component here is what they call multi-chain bridging. Imagine different blockchain networks as separate islands, right? Each with its own currency and its own set of rules. Multi-chain bridging is like creating bridges between these islands, allowing tokens to move more freely between them.
So it's like creating a universal translator for cryptocurrencies.
Yes, it allows the IXO tokens, which are the native tokens of the spatial web, to move across different blockchain ecosystems much more easily.
Mm-hmm.
And this increased fluidity is designed to fuel investments that are tied to real-world results and to create more vibrant marketplaces for these location-specific digital twins, whether it's a digital representation of a productive piece of farmland or a successfully reforested area.
Okay, so it's about breaking down the barriers between different blockchain networks and allowing for more seamless flow of capital and investment into these real-world projects.
And then there's this other really interesting concept they introduced called
Zero liquid staking, that's a new one. What is that all about?
So this was introduced with their Dominia upgrade, and it's a really clever way to link the economics of the spatial web directly to sustainability efforts.
Okay, so how does it work?
So basically, individuals can stake their IXO tokens, which is like putting them up as collateral, and in return, they earn a return on their investment. But what's unique about zero liquid staking is that it has this built-in mechanism for offsetting carbon emissions.
Oh, wow. So it's environmentally friendly staking.
Yeah, exactly. For every IXO token that's staked, a corresponding amount of carbon credits is automatically purchased and retired. So not only are you earning a return on your investment, you're also directly contributing to climate goals.
That's fantastic. So it's aligning the financial incentives with positive environmental outcomes.
And remember those AI-driven oracles we talked about earlier? They play a crucial role here, too.
Oh, the smart data interpreters. How do they fit in?
They're the ones that actually verify the real-world impact of these sustainability initiatives. You can't just claim you're planting trees or reducing emissions. You have to actually prove it. And the AI oracles, they use all that real-time data to verify that the claims are legitimate.
That's really smart. So it ensures that the rewards are actually going to the people and projects that are genuinely making a difference. It's about creating a direct economic link to positive environmental outcomes.
Exactly. And this is just one example of how they're using token economics to incentivize positive change. The roadmap is full of these kinds of innovative ideas.
This is all really exciting stuff. It feels like we're on the verge of a whole new way of organizing ourselves and interacting with the world around us. But there's still this question of governance, right? Who's making the decisions in the spatial web? Who's setting the rules?
That's a crucial question. And that's where the roadmap talks about programmable governance, which is essentially about how decisions are made and resources are allocated within this new ecosystem.
Okay, so it's like setting up the rules of the game for the spatial web.
Exactly. And this year, they're planning to launch what they call programmable organizational domains, or PODs for short. They'll be releasing a detailed white paper on this soon. But the basic idea is to create these self-governing entities that are responsible for managing different aspects of the spatial web.
Okay, and how are these PODs governed? Who gets to make the decision?
That's where it gets really interesting. They're proposing a community-driven governance model.
Yeah.
So by staking IXO tokens, which is like buying shares in a company, members of the community gain voting rights. And these voting rights, they allow them to participate in all sorts of decisions.
Like, what kind of decisions are we talking about?
It could be anything from deciding which cryptocurrency exchanges the IXO token gets listed on to how liquidity is managed across different blockchain networks. It could even involve things like setting the rules for data privacy or determining how rewards are distributed.
Wow, so it's like a true democracy for the spatial web, where everyone who holds IXO tokens has a voice in how it's run.
Exactly. This decentralized approach, it helps to reduce the risks associated with centralized control, where one person or a small group of people has all the power. It also aims to better align the incentives of all the participants, from the people who are validating transactions on the blockchain to the data providers and the domain experts.
That's really cool. It feels like a much more fair and transparent way to govern something as complex and potentially impactful as the spatial web.
It does. And remember those zero-knowledge proofs we talked about earlier? They play a role in this governance system, too.
Oh, I bet they're used to ensure the integrity of the voting process, right? Making sure that no one can vote twice or tamper with the results.
Yeah, that's one use case, but they can also be used to verify the data that's being used to make decisions. Let's say a POD is deciding whether to fund a new clean energy project. They can use zero-knowledge proofs to verify the project's claims about its potential environmental impact without actually having to reveal any sensitive data about the project itself.
Okay, so it's all about transparency and accountability, but without sacrificing privacy or security.
Exactly. And this ability to verify claims and data without revealing sensitive information is particularly important in regulated industries like healthcare and finance, where data privacy and integrity are paramount.
So far, we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the underlying technology of the spatial web, the importance of trust and security, and the innovative governance model they're proposing. But what about the actual applications? What are some of the specific things that people will be able to do in this spatial web?
That's where the roadmap gets into what they call valuable data marketplaces in intelligent cognitive digital twin systems.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it's about creating the tools and platforms to unlock the full potential of all this data that's being generated and managed within the spatial web.
Okay, so it's like building the infrastructure for a whole new data-driven economy.
Exactly. And IXO is actively developing these AI-powered prediction oracles, along with other advanced analytics tools, that are specifically designed to measure and predict real-world impact.
Can you give us some concrete examples of what that looks like?
Sure. The example they give with bioinformatics pipelines is really fascinating. By using causal AI to analyze data on pathogen genomics, the genetic makeup of viruses and bacteria, and correlate that with community health outcomes, they can potentially trigger near-instant alerts when certain risk thresholds are crossed.
Wow, so it's like an early warning system for disease outbreaks.
Exactly. And imagine the implications for public health. You could potentially identify and contain outbreaks much more quickly, saving countless lives.
That's incredible. And this isn't just limited to the health sector, is it?
Not at all. The roadmap also talks about applications in agriculture, for example.
Oh, that's interesting. How would it work in agriculture?
They talk about using these AI oracles to forecast crop yields based on real-time data from soil sensors and satellite imagery. This predictive capability could even trigger, like, automated insurance payouts when severe weather events like droughts are detected.
Wow, so it's like a safety net for farmers, protecting them from the unpredictable nature of weather and climate change.
Exactly. And what's really significant here is how this combination of AI and decentralized governance, the kind of governance model we were talking about earlier, it fosters the development of data-driven ecosystems that are built on principles of trust, value creation, and accountability.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about creating a whole new way of doing things, a more transparent, equitable, and ultimately more sustainable way of interacting with the world around us.
Exactly. And this brings us to another really important point, which is accessibility. Like all this sophisticated technology, it could easily feel out of reach for many people, right? But the roadmap, it actually emphasizes the goal of reaching more users everywhere.
Okay, so they're not just focused on the early adopters, the tech-savvy folks. They're thinking about how to make this technology accessible to everyone.
And they're doing this in a few really interesting ways. One example is the integration of USSD features into mobile wallets.
Okay, USSD, that's like the old school text messaging system, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's still widely used in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries where people might not have access to smartphones or reliable internet connections. So by incorporating USSD features into mobile wallets, they're essentially making it possible for people to participate in the spatial web, even if they don't have the latest and greatest technology.
That's brilliant. It's about meeting people where they are and making sure that no one is left behind.
And they're also doing a lot to make it easier for developers and organizations to build on top of the spatial web.
Oh, that's interesting. What are they doing for developers?
For one, they're building this thing called IXO Studio, which is like a visual interface for designing and deploying tokenized digital twins. So you don't have to be a coding whiz to create your own digital twins. You can just use this drag and drop interface to configure the rules and the parameters.
That's really cool. So it's democratizing access to this technology, making it easier for anyone to create and deploy their own digital twins.
Exactly. And then for other stakeholders like businesses or government agencies, there's this thing called IXO Portal, which is a comprehensive web application where they can monitor their assets, verify the outcomes of projects they're involved in, and even trade these tokenized digital twins.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all things spatial web.
Yeah, exactly. And these streamlined integrations, they're crucial for accelerating the adoption of the spatial web across diverse industries and geographical regions.
Okay, so if they're building the technology, they're creating the tools for developers, they're making it accessible to a wider audience, it's starting to feel like a real ecosystem is emerging here.
It is, and that's exactly what they talk about in the roadmap, this idea of a thriving ecosystem of marketplaces.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you give us some examples of what that looks like?
Sure. They highlight a number of existing marketplace platforms that are already using the spatial web to address challenges in various sectors. Like, for instance, there are platforms focused on tracking the spread of pathogens, like viruses and bacteria, which could be incredibly valuable for public health. And there are initiatives designed to support youth skills development, connecting young people with educational and job opportunities. And there are even marketplaces for clean energy solutions, making it easier for people to invest in and support renewable energy projects.
Wow, so it's already happening. These spatial web marketplaces are already out there making a real difference in the world.
They are. And the DMAP platform is a particularly interesting example. They use these advanced geospatial oracles to provide like really precise addressing and location verification, which is crucial for delivering essential public services in remote or even unmapped areas.
That's amazing. So even in places where there aren't traditional addresses or mapping systems, the spatial web can help to connect people with the services they need.
Exactly. And remember the good energy ecosystem we talked about earlier, the one that's using zero liquid staking to offset carbon emissions.
Oh, yeah. How does that fit into this marketplace ecosystem?
They're also using the spatial web to expand access to renewable energy solutions. They use these AI-driven MRV systems, which stands for measurement, reporting, and verification, to ensure that the clean energy projects they're supporting are actually delivering on their promises.
So it's all about transparency and accountability, making sure that the investments are actually making a real difference.
Exactly. And what's key to understand is that each of these marketplaces, whether it's focused on disease surveillance or promoting clean energy adoption, they're all built upon IXO's core building blocks: the tokenization of assets, cryptographic proofs of location, AI-powered analytics, and decentralized governance. And this creates these self-sustaining networks of value and impact that can attract both traditional investors seeking positive returns and grassroots communities working on the ground to solve local challenges.
So it's bringing together like all these different stakeholders, from global investors to local communities, and creating a platform for them to collaborate and create real change.
Exactly. And that's really the ultimate vision of the spatial web, to create a more connected, more equitable, and more sustainable world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the technology, the economics, the governance, the applications, but to bring it all together, what's the overarching vision for scaling the spatial web into the future? What does success look like for IXO?
According to this 2025 roadmap, success looks like a world where the spatial web is being used to address some of the most pressing challenges facing humanity. They're talking about using it to improve healthcare access in rural communities, to develop smarter and more sustainable cities, to create a more resilient and equitable global food system, and much more.
So it's really about using this technology to create a better future for everyone.
It is. And they're not just sitting back and waiting for this to happen. They're actively working to make it a reality. They're building the technology. They're fostering the community. They're creating the marketplaces. And they're really putting in the hard work to make this vision a reality.
Okay, so let's wrap up our deep dive here. IXO's 2025 roadmap, it presents a really compelling and ambitious plan to build out this comprehensive spatial web. It's all about the convergence of blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, and precise location-based data to create this digital layer that mirrors and interacts with the real world in ways that we're only just beginning to imagine.
Absolutely. And the innovative aspects we've explored today, the concept of tokenized digital twins, the use of zero-knowledge proofs for enhanced privacy and verification, the intelligent AI oracles that bridge the gap between the digital and physical realms, and the development of programmable governance structures. All of this, it points towards the significant potential for creating entirely new models for achieving real-world impact and building data-driven ecosystems that are grounded in trust and accountability.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. Given the potential for this unified spatial web to seamlessly integrate real-world assets and activities with intelligent digital capabilities and decentralized frameworks, what unexpected new possibilities might emerge? What novel forms of collaboration and problem-solving could this ultimately unlock that we can't even fully imagine today? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.